He called me selfish. What I said shattered our family dinner forever. At 3 a.m. the clock ticked ominously, each second seeping into the stillness like poison. Dinner had started off normal enough, laughter, clinking of silverware, but now everything felt suddenly wrong. It was 3 a.m. and shadows danced on the walls, creeping along with whispers of secrets that were meant to stay hidden. Something was about to snap. Just then, Stephen leaned forward, his eyes wild in the dim light. The air in the room changed. It became electric, brimming with tension. "You're selfish," he spat, his words laced with venom. I could feel the sting of those words, a visceral blow that cut deeper than I ever imagined possible. My heart raced. How could he say that? What did he really mean? The table, once a gathering place, now felt like a battlefield. Our family, usually a tight-knit unit, wavered on the edge of chaos. Mom's fork clattered against her plate, her face pale as a ghost. Dad sat back, hands clenched into fists, ready to explode. What was unleashed tonight was more than just a casual family spat. It felt prophetic, like a storm brewing, dark clouds gathering for a calculated strike. With each word exchanged, the gangrene of the past misunderstandings, unvoiced sorrow oozed to the surface, demanding attention. I felt a lump in my throat, heavy and unforgiving. "Have you ever thought of anyone but yourself?" Stephen's voice echoed, a taunt wrapped in a desperate plea. Panic surged. The resentment in his eyes was a mirror reflecting every moment of my life I thought I'd navigated just fine. Questions spiraled in my mind. What had happened to our family? Were we always this fragile? Every breath felt labored, like a weight pressing down on my chest. I wanted to shout back, to set things right, but the words got stuck. I could feel the eyes of everyone on me, a mix of concern and anticipation, masking their own fear of the truth spilling out. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." With the silence thick enough to slice through, I took a breath, my hands trembling slightly. "You don't understand," I managed to say, desperation flooding my voice. But they didn't see me. They saw their own fears reflected back. Would it ever be the same? A murmur floated through the air, doubt, disbelief, anxiety, each sound heavy with implication. Then came the question that hung in the air like a noose. Is our family even worth fighting for? Those words struck like a lightning bolt, illuminating the fractures lurking beneath the surface. I could see the fear in everyone's eyes, and yet, there was something more, something darker and more powerful. As the clock ticked toward dawn, our family dinner spiraled into an abyss of uncertainty. Shadows loomed larger now, and just when it felt like the walls were closing in, I glimpsed something out of the corner of my eye. A movement, perhaps a fleeting figure, just beyond the window. My heart raced anew. What was out there? Something told me this was only the beginning, and the answers were hiding just out of reach. The flickering overhead light cast jagged shadows along the walls, a dim reminder of the chaos that had enveloped us. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, drowning out the distant ticking of the clock. Outside, the night loomed like a predator, hiding whatever had danced just beyond the glass. I dared another glance, half expecting to see something lurking at the edge of the darkness. "Did you see that?" I whispered, my voice barely escaping my lips as I turned to Stephen, who still bore a fierce expression. His eyes narrowed, skepticism etched into his features. Clearly, my urgent whisper hadn't fazed him. The storm that raged between us seemed a mere background hum against the tension outside. Mom broke the silence, her voice trembling. "Maybe it's just a deer or something." But her words faltered just like her confidence. The table felt like a powder keg, and the air was thick, pallid with remnants of unspoken grief. "Something," Dad suddenly barked, leaning forward. "You don't know what's out there. You don't even know what's been going on inside our home." His eyes darted to each one of us as if seeking answers. It hit me then, the weight of our family secrets, festering and poisonous, had been amplified tonight. What if it's not just an animal? I wondered aloud, the idea that had settled in my mind now breaking free. What if this is our breaking point? Maybe whatever is out there is here for us. Instinctively, I shivered, a chill running down my spine at the thought. Stop. Just stop. Stephen exploded, his voice sharp like glass. You think we can blame our problems on something out there? Our issues are right here, sitting at this table staring at us. You are selfish, and playing the victim isn't going to fix it. His words slammed into me, resonating deeper than I wanted to admit. The truth stung. It was easier to blame outside forces for our turmoil, but we had become experts at burying the real fears bubbling beneath our skin. He reached under the table, his hand coming up, strange and trembling. No one dared to ask what he held. The stillness turned suffocating just then. A loud crash echoed from outside, a bone-chilling sound that sent waves of shock through the room. Everyone froze, locked in a moment suspended in time. I glanced at Dad. His face the portrait of disbelief. Had something crossed the threshold of our lives that we couldn't ignore anymore? Maybe it's time we face what's outside, I murmured mostly to myself. I couldn't shake the feeling that the outside world was spilling into our home, uninvited. Before anyone could respond, another noise followed, a scraping sound almost rhythmic. My heart raced faster. Was it just my imagination, or was it growing louder, closer? Stay here, Dad finally commanded, his voice steady but low. The strong leader was gone. I watched as he stood, each step resolute yet careful, the floor creaking under his weight. Dad, don't. My voice rang out, but he was already moving toward the door, ready to confront whatever lay beyond. But as he reached for the knob, a scream pierced the air, high-pitched and filled with terror. Mom and I jumped, the sound shredding what little resolve remained. Open the door. I croaked, panic coursing through me, but Dad hesitated. What had we unleashed? This night had morphed from a simple family dinner into a haunting that we could no longer run away from. As the screaming intensified, I felt a primal urge to bolt. Suddenly the lights flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. What lay ahead, hidden in this suffocating night, was something we couldn't comprehend, and a revelation loomed just out of reach. Was it really worth it to embrace the chaos, just to uncover what was buried deep within our family? The darkness swallowed us whole, a thick, suffocating blanket over a family teetering on the edge. The scream lingered like a knife hung in the air. I strained my ears, every whisper in the blackness amplified as if the shadows themselves were plotting. What was that? Mom's voice trembled, breaking the silence like glass shattering. I don't know. I whispered back. My heart raced, pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. The last remnants of the light outside vanished, taking with it whatever shadow had been cast on our lives. Stephen's breathing was labored, jagged in the stillness. We need to get out of here, he hissed. This isn't normal. His urgency sent a new wave of dread crashing over me. If things were surreal before, they had warped into nightmarish territory. I felt it in my bones. Whatever had been stirred outside was inching closer, creeping into our lives, into our home. Dad's feet shuffled, uncertain, the knob cold and unyielding in his grip. Stay behind me, he said, though he barely sounded like the protector we had always relied on. A bead of sweat trickled down my back as I watched each agonizing second draw out like a stretched rubber band ready to snap. Please just open the door, I begged, my voice breaking. I felt my pulse in my throat. With every breath, the air thickened, making it hard to swallow. And then another sound, a scraping like nails on metal grinding raspingly. It was close. Way too close. Open the door, Mom shouted, her voice rising to a pitch I'd never heard before. It was primal. A raw instinct desperate to escape. Let us just wait. It could be nothing, Dad replied, but his voice trembled. I could see it, the crack in his facade, the uncertainty consuming him. Then why is it getting louder? Stephen spat. The tension in the room snapped as he launched himself toward Dad, pulling at his arm. We can't stay here. In a blink, Dad swung the door wide open, light spilling in with an almost supernatural glow that fought against the night. For a brief moment, my breath caught as the silhouettes outside danced under the new illumination, but there was nothing there. Just emptiness wrapped in shadows and echoes that taunted with twisted laughter. See? Nothing, Dad said, his words lacking conviction, his face pale against the sudden brightness, but the pause was short-lived. The rustling intensified and something darted across the edge of the yard, dark, swift, a flicker of movement followed by another piercing scream, closer this time. It felt like icy fingers clawing my spine, urging me to back away, to flee. "Dad!" I screamed, panic spilling over as I realized we were no longer safe. "We can't stay. We have to go." Then it happened. A figure stepped into the light, a shadow that stretched across our yard, its features obscured by the night but imbued with an unsettling familiarity. I strained to recognize it. Could this really be happening? Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. No, it can't be, but it was. The revelation hung in the air, thick and heavy. "Who is that?" Stephen, incredulous, his voice dipped in fear. The figure took a step closer, and the breath left my body. My heart raced, pounding frantic rhythms against panic. Everything we had tried to escape, every wound reopened, was poised on the edge of being exposed. "Help us," the figure spoke, voice a haunting echo of the past. The world tilted and I felt the ground beneath me shift. Would the truth set us free or shatter us forever? As the darkness encroached, questions spun wildly in my mind. What had we truly unleashed? I gripped the doorframe, torn between flight and confrontation. The revelation was here, and inside a storm brewed. What would happen next? The figure loomed, its shape becoming clearer with each heartbeat. It was almost human, but something vital flickered in its eyes, something dark and otherworldly that sent a chill racing through me. "Help us," it repeated, the words shattering the night like glass. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet felt cemented to the floor. "Who are you?" I managed, my voice a thread barely held together. The figure stepped forward, and now in the light, I could see the pain etched onto its face. It was my uncle, lost years ago, vanished in a tragic accident, leaving us shattered. But he looked different now, twisted by shadows and time. "Please," he begged, desperation dripping from his tone. "You have to listen. Get away from him," Dad shouted, stepping in front of us protectively. His muscles tensed, ready to confront this embodiment of our family's grief. "Dad, wait!" Stephen cried. He has family." "No," Dad spat. "He is not. He is dead." "Am I?" my uncle asked, the question hanging in the air, taunting us. "Or have I been calling for you all this time?" From the other side? Mom stumbled back, shaking her head, disbelief contorting her features. "This isn't real," she breathed, frantic. "It can't be. You're not him." The shadows around us swirled, almost alive, sensing our fear, our confusion. I could feel the darkness closing in, every moment stretching as we fought through the haze of denial. "Help us," he urged again, voice shifting from pleading to something darker. "There are things you don't understand. Things that have been left undone." An icy gust whipped through the open door, swirling around us and snatching my breath. I turned, glancing back outside, terrified what lurked just beyond the light. "Please, I need to warn you," my uncle shouted, taking another step closer. But it was like the shadows were pulling him back, feeding off his desperation. "I don't want to believe this," I whispered, my heart pounding. How could he still be here? But then I recalled family moments we had buried deep in our minds. The laughter at our last dinner together, the stories he told. Was this him, or was it a grotesque imitation? Anguish filled me, a knot tightening in my chest. "Enough!" Dad roared. "Stay away from us!" He shoved my brother behind him, the protective instinct kicking in, desperate to shield us from whatever this was. The figure hesitated, a flicker of sorrow in his eyes. "I'm not here to harm you," he said, voice softer, thick with regret. "I came to help. They want out, but they can't be free without you." "What do you mean?" I asked, hope fighting against fear. "Let me take you to where it began," he urged, glancing behind him as if seeking something in the shadows. "You have to know the truth or all will be lost." "I can't. You're not real," Mom shouted, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. The ground trembled beneath us as the shadows writhed, hungry and restless. "You must decide," my uncle urged, desperation now morphing into a demand. "Will you choose to ignore this like you always have?" The moment froze, a single heartbeat ticking away in the cacophony of uncertainty. Behind him, dark shapes whispered, clawing at the edges of the light, waiting for our choice. I looked at my family, the fear mirrored in each of their eyes. Would we really venture into this abyss again? What lay in the depths of our own buried truths? As my uncle waited, a sudden movement jerked my attention. The shadows drew closer, and within them, something sinister took shape. Whatever happens next, we must face it together, I breathed, uncertain of my own resolve. But was our bond strong enough to dive into the unknown? Or would it splinter apart under the weight of the past? And as the shadows inched closer, cloaked in malice, I realized the truth might be more dangerous than we ever imagined. What did it mean for us? The shadows pulsed with a life of their own. Each step my uncle took seemed to echo in the silence, tethered to the weight of our family's shared grief. I was caught, torn between disbelief and a desperate need to know the truth of what had happened. Make your choice. My uncle's voice rose above the clamoring darkness, resonating like a bell tolling in a storm. The air felt thick, closing in as I watched something flicker behind him, faces, twisted and sorrowful, just out of reach, waiting. We don't have time for this, Dad bellowed, fists clenched, prepared to push back against the encroaching shadows. Whatever you are, you'll not take my family. Stop, Stephen shouted, the plea raw and strained. Can't you see? He.S. trying to help. I slid a glance at Mom. Her face was a tempest of emotions, an internal struggle between wanting to run and a flicker of hope that flashed in her eyes. That's not him. Is it? She was pleading with us to believe in the sanctity of our memories. Yet the darkness threatened to engulf those very memories. I came back for a reason, my uncle insisted. You must come with me. You'll see. You'll understand. Understand what? I shot back, my heart racing. What could possibly be worth this horror? His gaze dropped to the floor, shadows curling around him like snakes, and when he finally met my eyes again, the weight of ages past pressed down upon his brow. Everything you think you know is a lie. The chains bind not just me, but all of us, and you need to break them. With each word, a crack formed in the suffocating tension. There was a flicker of light in my chest, the urge to step forward bubbling to the surface. You can't expect us to just trust you, I exclaimed, suddenly daring the idea that this was more than a nightmare grasping at us. Trust? Not in the way you think, my uncle whispered, his voice trembling. But this, he gestured broadly to the encircling shadows, this is real. This is pain that runs deeper than flesh and bone. The specters in the dark seemed to nod, almost in agreement, forming a chorus that descended as ominous whispers. Each note was drenched with sorrow. I could feel their anguish wrapping around me. My throat tightened. What had our family buried to invoke such despair? Should we confront it? I posed, half to myself, half to my family. What if we can release whatever held him here? No. Dad's voice cut through the dark like a knife. You don't understand the risks. It could destroy us all. A dreadful silence fell, everything held by a thread. In that moment it felt as if the universe waited for our decision, holding its breath in anticipation of how we'd choose to respond. Don't choose fear, my uncle urged, and it was like a shard of ice in the warmth of his request. Instead, choose love. That's the only thing powerful enough to fight against what looms here. Before I could even grasp the weight of his words, the ground rumbled again. A low growl echoed through the night, a warning. Behind the shadows, thousands upon thousands of eyes glimmered hungrily, as if they were feasting on our fear. Now, my uncle yelled, and the urgency propelled us all forward, as if springing to action could hold the darkness at bay. Just when I thought the deed was done, a figure, the darkness itself, swept over my uncle, dragging him back into the void. You made your choice. It roared, and I felt the earth tremble beneath us as we reached for him but stumbled back, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. We have to save him, Stephen shouted, and a glimmer of resolve ignited in me. But was this the end of our connection? Or merely the beginning of a deeper, more terrifying truth? And as the shadows closed in, I realized that facing the truth might cost us everything. Would we dare to look? The shriek of my uncle's voice echoed in my ears, calling me back to reality, but the weight of the shadows around us nearly suffocated me. Each face in the dark contorted with rage and agony, and for a fleeting moment, I could see my uncle's face among them, pleading, desperate. Panic rose inside me, clawing for an escape. Move now, Dad shouted, urgency sharp in his tone. He grabbed my arm, yanking me toward the doorway, pulling us from where the darkness threatened to swallow us whole. I stumbled, hazy eyes lost in a whirl of shadows and voices clamoring in unison. Each cry felt like ice water pouring down my spine. Wait! I gasped, dragging my feet as if tethered to the ground. We can't leave him. He needs us. The contrast of my desperate plea echoed futilely against Dad's firm grip. Lana, Stephen breathed, eyes wide and pleading. If we don't move, we'll end up like him. I caught a glimpse of his shaking hands, the tension pulling at the corners of his mouth. Yet, something within me urged to turn back, see through the murky veil and grasp the truth my uncle had hinted at. Wouldn't it be worth it? Come on. Dad roared again and we were propelled forward, the shadows writhing and snarling like caged beasts. I felt the heat of their anger radiate toward us, but with my heart pounding in my chest, I fought against the instinct to flee. Run! Mom screamed, her voice cracking under the weight of our reality. I could see the storm in her eyes. Was it fear? Or was it the flicker of truth? A guttural growl erupted from the dark. It felt like a threat, like it could reach out and snatch us back at any moment. I stumbled, still half-dazed, until I felt Stephen's strong hand grip mine, anchoring me. We can't abandon him. I cried, my voice cracking like a brittle branch. What if? But the thought died as the shadows swirled in a furious tempest. Lana, listen to me. Stephen shook me slightly, his eyes fierce under the weight of our shared panic. If we go back now, we will lose ourselves. We're losing ourselves already. His words drummed into my brain like steady lightning. We need a plan. The dark throng behind us roared in frustration, like a beast starving for flesh. I turned my attention back to the swirling shadows, and a flicker of movement caught my eye. My uncle's face appeared just briefly, desperation painted across his features before being consumed again. The very sight cut through me like a dagger. Suddenly the air shifted. The shadows began to coalesce, forming darker shapes, and from inside them emerged an entity, a silhouette that towered over everything. My breath caught in my throat. I will take what belongs to me, it hissed, its voice coiling around us like smoke. What do you want? I shouted, clenching my fists as adrenaline surged through me. Your memories, it replied, teeth glimmering like knives. Pain has a flavor, sweet as love and bitter as regret. Will you sacrifice them? Running wasn't an option anymore. I could feel my heart thundering in my ears, drowning out the horror. With composure and defiance, a sudden ember ignited within me. No, I won't let you. Before I could think, I pulled Stephen with me toward the swirling darkness. We have to face this. Whatever it is, we must confront it. Tension crackled in the air. I could see Mom and Dad faltering behind us, frozen in indecision. The darkness stirred, hungry for our move, a living presence thundering against our unity. Lana! Stephen! Dad yelled, but we were committed now. I could feel the warmth of Stephen's hand against mine. Standing together, we braced ourselves, arms raised against the coming storm. Whatever was about to happen, we would face it head-on. The shadows held a chilling refrain, and in the heart of it all, the answers waited, inescapable, shrouded in fear yet brimming with forgotten echoes. As the darkness pressed forward, desire swelled within me. Would discovering the truth be worth the price of our souls? The tension split the air as I shouted into the void. We're ready for you. But would we truly be prepared for what lay ahead? The moment I stepped forward, time warped around us, stretching and dilating. The shadows lurked closer, curling around us like tendrils of smoke, suffocating yet electrifying. I could hear my heart thundering in my ears, drowning out everything but that eerie hissing from the dark, a promise of despair weaving through my thoughts. Lana! Dad's call pulled me slightly back. He was a shadow himself, a silhouette blurred by an ocean of panic. I shot a glance at him, the conviction in his eyes begging me to return, yet I stood my ground. The figure towered above us, broad and menacing, the glint of its teeth sharp enough to carve fear into stone. I swallowed hard. A lump lodged in my throat as I faced it. Your memories will feed me. Will you not offer them freely? It could have been a whisper or a thunderstorm. It crackled in the air like live wire. Stop. We won't give you anything. I yelled, the conviction in my voice trembling between anger and fear. Stephen squeezed my hand, grounding me, his eyes darting to our parents, still lost in the shroud of indecision. Your uncle made a choice, the dark thing continued, its voice echoing deep and hollow. He chose loyalty over survival. Now he is mine. Will you be the same? No. I screamed, feeling the rising tide of fury against that twisted darkness. I had to fight. I had to pull my family back from its grasp. Lana! Dad shouted again, his eyes wide, desperation spilling through the shadows, but I couldn't look back now. I had to focus. For Uncle Mike. For us. Enough. I pressed forward, determination igniting in my chest. We'll fight you. You want our memories? You'll have to rip them from us. A laugh reverberated from the entity, mocking. Deep it felt like a dagger thrust into my side. You do not understand. Memories are not merely memories, they are power. They can set you free or they can be your shackles. Which will you choose? My pulse raced in that unending moment. What did the darkness speak of? Freedom? Shadows roiled, shifting in chaos, and I suddenly felt a wave of memories washing over me, images of laughter, love, pain. The taste of my uncle's coffee lingering in my mind, the laugh we shared over family dinners. Leave him alone. I cried, my voice cracking as memories blended with longing. My family was all I had. You can't take that from us. In that heartbeat I saw Uncle Mike again, his face fleeting, twisted with anguish, reflection in a mirror turned sideways. He needed us to fight. I had to channel this fury into something real. This darkness had taken too much already. The shadows began to pulse with life, vibrating with a sinister hunger. Something deep inside me awakened, rekindling a flicker of hope. We won, to be your sacrifices. We stand together. Then, with unexpected clarity, I felt the heaviness of uncertainty sink away. It was just us now, family against the dark void. I couldn't tell if my parents had finally chosen to step forward, or if they were lost in the shadows. But I knew we could shift this tide. Bracing ourselves, we created a barrier with our joined hands, the warmth of unity igniting. I could feel the electric tension in the air and the dark entity recoiling slightly, its laughter faltering. Move not just for yourself but for him. I shouted. This family, these memories are worth fighting for. In an instant the shadows shrieked, a sharp note of fury and denial. They clawed at us, surging forward, darker than night. Uncle Mike, we're coming, I whispered fervently, eyes burning with determination. But as the swirling shadows surged, something inside the darkness rippled, a shattering truth surfaced. A sensation I never saw coming, one ingrained deep within that cold abyss. What if it was always right? What if I was merely delaying the inevitable? And in that moment of vulnerability I realized, the fight was only just beginning. The darkness shifted again, and a strange sound emerged, a whisper tainted with sadness. Your memories are but fragments of who you truly are. What did that mean? As thoughts swirled, I felt the ground beneath us tremble. And then I understood there was a deeper battle yet to emerge. One that didn't just threaten our memories, but everything we believed about ourselves. Brace yourselves, Stephen warned, gripping my hand tighter. The world around us began to fade, shadows fraying at the edges, collapsing into a dizzying void. And then, just like that, we were moving toward something unspeakable. Would we emerge whole? Or would we shatter in the face of the truth? I felt a sudden jolt, as if the ground had vanished beneath my feet. A swirling tempest of darkness whisked us along a wild current racing through a tunnel of shadows. I gasped as the world around morphed into an infinite expanse of black, glimmers of our memories flickering like fireflies in the deep. Stay together, Stephen urged, but the surging void felt like a living thing, pulling us apart. Panic surged in my chest. We were losing grip, but I refused to let go. We can't break. Hold on, I shouted, and while I fought to keep my focus, my mind spiraled through frantic images: family dinners bathed in warmth, summer days spent laughing and singing, Uncle Mike's bright smile brightest of all. But then shadows yanked those memories, twisting them with invisible hands. I felt cold fingers wrap around my throat, almost choking out my voice. Let go of us, I cried, but my words dripped with fear, weak against the darkness. No. Mom's voice cut through the chaos like a lifeline. We can beat this. She grabbed Dad's hand, each tug as powerful as defiance itself. Then, a swirling figure materialized from the darkness, morphing into something recognizable. It was Uncle Mike, but his once vibrant image was now fractured, half-smiled yet steeped in despair. You must choose, he murmured, his voice deep and resonating like a bell. Choose what? My dad shouted, his voice cracking, sharp enough to resonate against the void. Choose what? Uncle Mike's gaze locked onto me, and in his eyes swirled the history of our family, the good, the bad, everything sharing equal weight. To remember or to forget? What? I whispered, the terror curling around my heart like a snake. Your memories hold power, he said, his voice slipping again into that haunting echo. Will you let them bind you, or will you reclaim them? I stilled. Reclaim. The word hung in the empty air, laden with emotion. Suddenly it all made sense. This wasn't just about saving Uncle Mike. It was about confronting our past, facing the things we had swept under the rug. Remember the good, I cried, squeezing Stephen's hand tight. Pull strength from our love. Not all memories are light. The darkness roared back, throwing tempestuous waves around us. But I felt something shift. We were still connected, no darkness could sever real bonds of love. Then we fight with our pain, I asserted boldly, the past both a crutch and a weapon. And maybe, just maybe, it'll be enough. The shadows recoiled at my defiance, twisting and curling away as if the light from our unity pushed them back. No, you cannot choose. The entity howled, and I took the growing warmth of strength in my heart and let it spread through my body. No, I won't let you drown us. I yelled, we're more than our fears. We are family. The chaos around us raged on, but the tension was palpable, a thunder before the storm. In that moment, those memories weren't just echoes. They became roots anchoring me, blossoming into a fierce light that blazed against uncertainty. But that light still felt fragile. What if it wasn't enough? The weight of doubt loomed over me, but I had to believe it was. Then in a flash we were swept up in the memories, faces bright with laughter. The scent of home cooking wafting through the air, filling me with an indescribable pulse of rage and love. Let us reclaim our history, I shouted, and together we summoned our narratives. Hope soared through me, but dread lingered. It was either our salvation or our doom. And in the midst of the chaos, just as I felt us beginning to push back, a voice shattered through the noise. But what if reclaiming means losing everything you hold dear? Chills froze my blood. What did that mean? What would we have to sacrifice? Before I could voice the fear rising within me, the shadows lunged, and the darkness shifted sharper than ever. Would we emerge victorious? Or would we find ourselves lost in our darkest truths? I could feel the shadows closing in, hungry for our light. The swirling mass surged, creeping and curling around us like a tightening noose. My heart raced, pounding hard against my ribs. We can't stop. Keep fighting, I urged, but my voice trembled, barely cutting through the din. You don't understand. Uncle Mike's figure flickered, his eyes reflecting something deep, raw, and hurt. To reclaim is to confront the pain, to face what was torn and broken. Are you prepared for the truth? Truth? Just tell us. Stephen shouted, his voice mingling with a desperate edge. I felt his grip tighten around my hand, and for a moment, it steadied me amidst the chaos. He.'s right, Mom said, her voice laced with uncertainty. We need to know what merging our memories means. Are we sure we can bear it? With every heartbeat, the tension swelled. Would resurrecting our memories expose wounds too deep to heal? Or would it allow us to overcome the pain? My thoughts raced back to all the moments that had made us whole. Laughter at Thanksgiving. The smell of baking cookies during the holidays. But lurking in the corners of my mind were darker memories. Family arguments, tears, and loss. A crashing wave of darkness suddenly erupted, forcing me backward. I gasped, feeling the chill seep into my bones. It swirled around us like a tempest, desperate to pull us apart, shrouding my perceptions in uncertainty. Remember. Reclaim your love. Uncle Mike's voice cut through the clamor, resonating with cries of anger and sorrow. Yet there was something else, a glimmer of hope in his tone that ignited a fire within me. That I looked toward my family. We have to choose each other over the pain. Love is stronger than regret. But that chilling voice echoed again, gaining strength. To reclaim means to shed the layers of comfort that keep you safe. How deep is your love? Are you ready to bear the weight of what you've hidden? Sweat trickled down my brow as the shadows closed in, ready to engulf us. We're not afraid. We want to know. I yelled, but doubt scratched at the edges of my resolve. The shadows pulsated, thrumming with anger, as if they had heard my words and were furious at our audacity and that moment of defiance. The memories swept through the darkness like wildfires, creating a path lined with flickering images from our shared history. I saw our family at the beach, smiling, the sun drawing laughter from our lips as waves crashed in the background. I felt the warmth of those cherished moments, but then the scene turned, and I was thrown into a tempest of arguments, the echoes of raised voices shattering the warmth and laughter. Do you see? Uncle Mike's figure morphed again. A mixture of despair and hope. Reclaiming isn't just about remembering the good, it's facing the truth of who you are as a family. Panic flared. Then what do? I cried, desperation clawing at me. The shadows pushed closer, hungry for hesitation. Make vocal the nemesis, he said. A knowing gleam in his fractured eyes. Speak the words you've avoided, embrace the shadows, or they will consume you. I hesitated. Buried truths clawed at my conscience like wounded animals desperate to be freed. What had we hidden? What truths would emerge in the fire of our defiance? Then, before I could process my next move, I shouted, enough. I want to know. My voice rang out, hanging in the chaos as the shadows recoiled, drawn back for a moment as if startled by my resolve, but their response was swift and merciless. Shadows whipped around me, a torrent of darkness swirling to form a looming figure that towered above us, a pasture of dread and familiarity. Then know this, it thundered, memory is a double-edged blade. It cuts as deeply as it heals. Are you prepared to lose everything you hold dear to reclaim who you are? As fear swept back in, curling tight around my throat, I felt a wave of heat surge within me, a strange serenity combining with terror. We were on the precipice of something monumental. Our family was hanging in the balance, teetering toward salvation or destruction. Could we confront our truths, or would the weight of our buried past drown us in despair? The shadows loomed larger, their hunger palpable, and just as silence fell around us, that chilling voice whispered again. It's time to choose, and the truth will shatter the bonds that unite or reinforce them forever. What awaited us in the depths of our revelations? Tension hung thick in the air, like a fog that refused to lift. The shadows coiled closer, shadows drawn to fears and betrayals long buried. I felt my heart race, pounding against the cage of my chest. Every flicker of dark energy seemed to whisper reminders of the pain we had tucked away. The weight of our family's history pressed down on us like a mountain, and yet, in this moment, it felt like our very existence depended on the choice right before us. Do you see what you're asking? Stephen's voice trembled against the overwhelming dark. Do you know the risks? I do, my uncle said, his form wavering, but his tone steady with conviction. But it's all connected. Every scar, every joy woven into the fabric of who you are. A sudden surge of warmth blossomed from within me, battling against the freezing grip of despair. We can't back down now, I breathed, squeezing Stephen's hand. If we can confront our histories together, it might just set us free. The shadows flared in reaction, swirling with indignation. You think facing your pain will make you stronger? It will turn you to ash. It screeched, its voice now a tempest, rising and falling in waves of cold fury. But my resolve hardened. We're not afraid to face it, I shouted back, shaking with determination. Whatever it takes, we'll uncover the truth. Together. Then silence fell, thick as oil. The shadows momentarily stilled, as if considering my words, weighing them against the dark voices that beckoned me to retreat, to hide. Very well, Uncle Mike said, stepping forward, his voice shimmering with hope. But be warned, the truth is not gentle. It's raw and jagged, and it will cut deep, possibly deeper than you can imagine. We cannot change our past, Dad spoke up, desperation lacing his tone, but it doesn't have to dictate our future. We can take back what belongs to us. The shadows hissed, recoiling as the light of our collective decision began to cut through the darkness. Then let us take it back. I cried, my pulse racing, firing the air with determination. Speak your fears. Bring forth the shadows or suffer their wrath forever. Uncle Mike urged, and suddenly the swirling mass became alive with anticipation. One by one we spoke out, siphoning our hearts onto the line, as if by naming the darkness we could contain it. I was afraid I'd never be good enough. I shouted, each word releasing a piece of the weight that had burdened me for too long. I've hidden my guilt. Stephen confessed, his voice breaking. I never believed I could make my own choices without hurting someone. I kept quiet too long. Mom cried, the tremor in her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid words. I wanted to protect you, but it tore us apart. Each confession was like a stick of dynamite, exploding the silence that had long shielded our truths. As it echoed, the shadows writhed, trapped by the potency of our declarations. "I never wanted you to choose sides," Dad roared. His face haunted as grief washed over him. "I wished we could be whole, but I pushed you away." And with each admission, flickers of light emerged. Our collective truth illuminated fragments of darkness, casting shadows that shrank further with every word spoken. "Do you see now?" My uncle's voice rose above the chaos, transcendent and soothing. "Let the truth purge the fear. Let it spread roots where there were none, and watch your love grow anew." The darkness buckled, its form shifting under the weight of our shared histories. "Stop! This cannot be." It howled, and for the first time, the shadows seemed less imposing, less omnipotent. "We will break these chains," I shouted, feeling a surge of power as the shadows began to splinter. "The past will not define us." The darkness twisted violently, shadows casting frantic shapes, as if storm clouds were breaking apart. My family stood with me, united, our hands grasping tight around each other, a living embodiment of our resolve. "Are you prepared for the truth?" Uncle Mike asked, his tone tender yet firm. "Yes," we shouted in unison, the sound reverberating against the chaos as the last remnants of darkness began to fade. "Then remember," he whispered, the edges of his form shimmering. "Love has always been the strongest force. Hold on to it and you will find your way." As the shadows finally shattered, shards of darkness crumbled into the ether, leaving us standing in a golden light, warm and familiar. A sensation of freedom washed over me, buoyed by a sense of loss tinged with hope. And just like that, Uncle Mike's figure began to dissolve, the pain she'd borne releasing into the air like a sigh of relief. A bittersweet smile graced his lips. "I'm proud of you. Remember your strength." With a final glimmer, he faded completely, leaving us standing together as family once more, one that had finally unveiled the truths lurking beneath the surface. For the first time in so long, I took a breath and felt whole. The past, while painful, could finally coexist with the present. As dawn broke through the remnants of night, illuminating our once dark kitchen, it struck me. Truths could either shatter us or set us free. We had chosen freedom. And in that moment, surrounded by my family, I understood that together, we could face anything. And with that, as the last notes of our night faded into dawn, I smiled, cradling hope when nothing seemed certain, trusting that our journey was only just beginning. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will take you on an unforgettable ride. Smash that like button now to help the algorithm spread this powerful message. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this conclusion. What did you think? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this story. Your support is the lifeblood of this community. Let us connect and keep the momentum going.